Alright, so we have a 2007 Ford Edge. I'm going to change the brakes on it and just do a quick video of that. Not too bad of a job. Of course, first thing, jack up the car, put a jack stand under it to make sure it doesn't fall, and then pull off the wheel itself. So I've got my little impact here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that off, and then we'll sit down and look at what else needs to be taken off. Okay, so got the tire pulled off. Here I'm looking at the brake caliper, rotor, the hub assembly and everything. So right in here, that's shown up well. It's kind of where you can inspect to see how much meat is left on your brake pads. So I've got, here's an old one from the other side that I just did. So you can see it's pretty thin, wearing pretty thin. Here's the new one that I'm getting ready to put on this side. So obviously you can see a lot thicker there. So coming around back, if you just want to take the caliper off itself, there's a bolt here and another bolt right here. So 2 bolts, that'll just pull the caliper off. What I do is I pull the entire bracket here with the caliper already attached. So that's going to be this bolt, and there's one more bolt right down here, right on the bottom. So I've already got them loose, you can see here. So that will allow you to pull this entire bracket here off. So let me take these out, and I'll show you the next step. Alright, so taking the bolts out, these are 3/4 inch bolts, 2 of them. So it's probably going to be a little snug, so you take a little screwdriver in to get the caliper and everything off. So you will need to, should right up in here. Come right up here, Mace. Up here. So here's where your brake pads are. You can obviously pull these out, take a look at them. These ones are getting pretty thin. This one's almost gone. What you will need to do before since these pads are so thin and we're putting big thick pads back on, you'll need to have a big clamp. And what you'll do is basically press the brake caliper back in to get your ring, to get your space back in here. So if you can see right in here, these boots, they're probably, I don't know, maybe between 1/4 and 1/2 inch pressed out. So you need to press those all the way back to give yourself space for the new brake pads. So that's what I'm going to do. I have a big C-clamp here, and I'll use the old brake pad, and then what I did on the other side was just put it up against this screw on the back, and basically you just tighten this until these boots here are compressed all the way back against the caliper wall. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll pick up from there. Also, at this point, if you're going to change your brake rotor, that's when you'd do that. You'd pull this off. There may be, maybe not. No, there's no bolt or anything on this one. So at this point is when you'd pull this off and you go get them turned, or put new ones on. I'm just going to put new brake pads on. You can feel around the edge to see, if there's any pitting or any heavy dig marks where you need to replace your rotor here. I'm not going to replace the rotor. I'm just changing the brake pads on this one. So let me compress this, and then we'll turn it back on. Okay, so just real quick, I've got the clamp on here and fully compressed, so you can see, I have one end of the clamp on the old brake pad inside here. The other one's on this nut back here, and I've tightened it all the way down as far as it'll go. So then here on the inside, we should be able to push this brake pad back out and you can see, hopefully you can see that well, inside here these two cylinders are fully compressed all the way back kind of to the wall of the brake caliper itself. So they should be flat up here. That way you know you have plenty of room. The next thing I'm going to do, it's not too terrible, so I'll just show you real quick and then go ahead and do it. There's a little hardware in here, little clips. So the new brake pad kit comes with the new clips. So they're not hard to get in. You just have to position them right and get them put in. The other thing I'm going to do while I'm putting that in is there's grease here. So I'm going to grease these up, and I'm also going to grease these rails right here where this slides. So I'm going to put some grease in there and some grease on these clips. So there's 4 clips, 2 for each brake pad. These clips back here are a little difficult to get to. You kind of have to move this back and forth to get to them, but again, it can be done. You might need a screwdriver. You know, once you get the clip kind of positioned in, just take a screwdriver and pop them in place. They'll kind of snap in place, so you'll know they're in there. But just as you're taking one out, you know, put a new one in. That way you know they're going in the right place. They're all the same basically, except for one of them will have this flat on the other side, on this side, and then when you go around to the other side, it'll be different. So there's 4 of them for this side. 2 of them are the same, you know, 2 on each side, and then the other 2 are the same. So as you pull one out, just put the same one back in, the same shape one. Okay, so I've got all the clips, you know, all the clips in with grease on them, here, and here. Then I went ahead and slid the brake pads in. Let's see, that's kind of how they go. So there's an ear on both sides. It has to fit in these slots, and then up here on the top, there's a little. You can see it better from this side. This little tab right here. So the ears slide in, and then these tabs kind of ride on the top of the brake pad itself. So I wouldn't say they're easy to get in. It's definitely doable. For some reason, this inside one here was a little bit easier to get in place than this one here on the outside. It just takes a little finagling. A time or two I had to take my screwdriver and kind of make sure that the clip here was pressed fully down and all the way back. And then again, once you kind of get it set, the ears set in, you have to lift up on this little tab here to kind of get them to slide back. But fully in there now, and all I have to do is put the caliper with the pads back on, and then tighten everything back down. So let me get that flipped over and put on. Okay, so putting this back on, all you do is kind of make sure your hose is unwound, keep everything in place, and if you've compressed your caliper well, it should slide back on without much problems. And then from there, all you have to do is realign your bolt holes, and I usually just try to get one started in. Okay, I think I've got that top one in, and then the same thing on the bottom. And here on the bottom, I'm just going to go in by feel to get that one in place. Okay, and again, these are 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch socket. I don't know the exact torque value So when I took them off, when I took these off, you probably seen I use a little breaker bar. So I just tighten them back down and get them snug, and then put the breaker bar back on and tighten them up pretty good. Again, I don't know, there's probably, if you look in the manual or a manual online somewhere, you can probably find the exact torque value for these, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Okay, so got the bolts for the caliper and the bracket tightened back up. 2 of them, again, 3/4 inch bolt head on that. So just a quick recap of the tools that I used. Of course, I had my socket, or you can use a wrench, you know, that fits this. I had a large clamp. Of course, the jack and the jack stand for safety reasons. You know, you want to make sure you put those under the car, and the car is you know, stable before you get underneath it, start putting your feet underneath it or anything like that. And then again, yeah, I used a socket, the breaker bar, and then a big screwdriver for prying that off. You can probably use multiple things. That's just what I used. And then you know, your new brake pads. Again, this little kit was just for the front, both front side, the left and right side front brake pads, and it came with a little bit of grease, and then all the new brackets, all the new clips, little hardware that goes on. So that's the only tools that I really used. Gloves and a light are helpful. I'm gonna use my impact, of course, to take off the lug nuts, but you don't need, you know, if you have your lug wrench, that'll work fine. Again, I'm not a mechanic. You know, if you want to do it this way, fine. This is just how I did it. Couple ending points. Again, make sure you use a jack with a jack stand to secure the car. When you get finished doing all this, since you've depressed the pistons on this caliper, they're no longer tight, so they're no longer have a lot of pressure on them. So before you get in and take off in your vehicle, you will want to pump the brakes to make sure that they tighten back up. Because if you get in and say you put it in drive or reverse without pumping the brakes, they won't immediately grab when you try to stop. So if you get in and take off and then try to hit the brakes, they're going to go all the way to the floor, and it's going to take some time to pump those brakes before they actually grab and stop the car. Again, on this one, I did not replace the rotors, so that's your own judgment call whether or not the rotors need to be replaced, need to be turned. I just did not do it on this one. If you have heavy grooving or heavy marks in the rotor here, you probably should take them and get them turned at least. Some places still do that, or go ahead and replace them. This car is a little bit older. It's got quite a few miles, so we're kind of just doing the bare minimum to keep it safe and drivable. Obviously, if you need new rotors, don't skimp on that and kind of have a dangerous situation where your brakes are not working well. And you should be able to tell. You know, you could get some wobbling, or when you hit the brakes, it'll kind of the car will kind of, I don't know, stutter, or it'll kind of make some weird noises when you brake, and that could be a problem with your rotor if your rotor is warped or wavy, anything like that. But again, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an expert on this. It's just what I did. So I'm not going to film putting the tire back on, but basically you put the tire back on, torque your lug nuts down to the proper torque value. Again, I don't know what that is. I'll use my torque wrench, and then I'll go back and make sure they're tight with this wrench, you know, just by hand to get the feel. So anyways, thanks for watching.